All right, let's continue on the road to May 29. Political parties have been at each other's throats regarding the vandalism and theft of election posters ahead of the May vote. Rise Mzansi, the Freedom Front Plus and Umkhonto weSizwe party have approached the Electoral Court for intervention. Let's discuss this now, and I'm joined by Rise Mzansi Chief Organizer Makashule Gana, the MK Party spokesperson Nhlamulo Ndlela, and the Freedom Front Plus's Heloise Denner. To all of you, a very good evening to you, and thank you very much for your time. Can I start with you, Ms. Denner, and ask what actually have been your experiences with your election posters?
Good evening, and good evening to the voters. Thank you for speaking to us. We've been experiencing a real problem with the vandalism and removal of our election posters all over the country. I have personal experience of the removal of posters in the Free State and in Mpumalanga especially. And people just basically remove our posters from the polls, they vandalize our posters, break them in half, and it's a very big problem with this election. It's always a problem with elections. We've experienced it in the past as well, but with this election it's much worse. And I think it's important that people realize that it is actually a criminal offense to remove election posters or to damage election posters. So I'd like to emphasize that. And I'd like to reiterate that it is quite a problem, and I'm sure the colleagues on the panel as well will concur with me that we are experiencing a big problem with that this year.
Well, let's find out from the gentlemen who also join in this conversation. Mr. Ndlela, let's come to you. Your party is fairly new on the block. Why would you have any bad experiences with your election posters? How bad has it been?
Well, look, being a new party, naturally we're a threat because, not many people expected Umkhonto weSizwe to perform or to get a resounding response that we received. And we've experienced the same as the lady has mentioned in Oats Warren, where, funny enough, only our posters were ripped off there. And the DA's posters, stay, intact. So it has been a serious problem. But again, as you've mentioned, we have raised it with the IEC. But again, this is political intolerance, and it's just a big question as to why the DA's posters still there, and yet ours are the only ones that are targeted.
Mr. Gana, what has bin Rise Mzansi's experiences with the vandalism of election posters?
Thanks very much, colleague. Like the previous two guests have mentioned, ourselves who haven't been spared, people have been taking down our posters across the provinces. But ourselves as Rise Mzansi, because we are very committed organizers and volunteers, when some of the posters are taken down, we at least try to put the others up so that we focus our energies in interacting with South Africans who say that they need new leaders. So that's something that we are undeterred by the actions of those who operate in the cover of darkness, like at night, removing our posters. Whether you are in Johannesburg, in Musina, you are in Cape Town, our posters get removed, but we are focused because we understand that those that are currently occupying the seats in parliament and legislatures will not go out without a fight, and they are trying to fight us. As you'll know, every time another political party speaks about us, they don't have good things to say, and that results in many of their supporters taking down our posters.
Yeah. Ms. Denner, let's come back to you. So you're saying that this is a general problem during an election season, but this year has been particularly bad. Why do you say that, and what has the IEC said or done about it?
Look, I think we experience poster wars during elections. and it's always a race for attention on the polls. There's never enough space on the polls. So we do get instances where other political parties remove our posters. We've had complaints in the Free State, especially where we have video footage that we've submitted to the IEC showing ANC workers or contractors, we're not sure about that, removing FF Plus posters and then replacing them with ANC posters. So we have that material and we've submitted it to the IEC, but it's also very difficult for the IEC. All they can do is they can basically request and demand that political parties stay within the confines of the Electoral Code of Conduct, which is very important, and we have to keep to that.
Yeah.
But it's more important for us to have physical evidence of people removing the posters and vandalizing the posters so we can make cases with the South African Police Service, because it is a statutory offence. As I've said, it's a criminal offence. Section 92 of the Electoral Act clearly states that you may not vandalize or remove any election materials from lampposts or wherever they are brought to, and that is the offence carries a fine or imprisonment of not less than 5 years. So it's quite serious, and we have reported it to the IEC, and I'm sure the IEC is doing whatever they can.
Yeah.
But now that most provinces have also signed the Electoral Code of Conduct, I'm sure that we can look into the Electoral Code of Conduct as well, where we have credible evidence of political parties removing and vandalizing posters, to keep them to that code of conduct and to make sure that they stay within the confines of a democratic electoral process.
Very quickly, before I move on to others, you say you've got this physical evidence now of ANC people or people who are clad in ANC clothes who are removing these posters and putting the ANC posters instead. Have you had a conversation with that party to say, why are your people doing this?
Yes, we have the Provincial Liaison Committee in the specific province. We've posted it on the Provincial Liaison Committee. We've had a discussion with the ANC representatives on that committee, and they've undertaken to investigate the matter and get back to us. So I'm sure they are investigating the matter, and we're awaiting feedback.
Mr. Ndlela, have you gotten any evidence against who is removing your posters in Oudtshoorn? And you seem to have a particular complaint that yours are the only ones that are being brought down versus those of the DA. Are you trying to accuse the DA here?
Well, look, Cody, what's glaringly, obvious is that you've got three parties, and the other two that are being mentioned in the form DA and the ANC are not having those challenges. So that in of itself is telling in terms of, what's happening here. We're saying that Oudtshoorn is a municipality run by the DA. Their posters are up. Ours have been removed and vandalized. And this is a problem. And the mere fact that, after having signed the Code of Ethics and the Code of Conduct, at a provincial level, and this is still happening, is very, very concerning. We're taking this very seriously. We do have evidence. We've taken pictures. And it's just about, now waiting for the IEC to respond accordingly and obviously opening up a case with the police.
Mr. Gana, in your instance, what kind of interaction have you had with the IEC or perhaps the parties that you suspect to be involved in defacing your election posters?
Toli, we have raised this matter at the National Party Liaison Committee. Our representatives there have raised this particular issue. But because most of these people who vandalize and take down Rise Mzansi posters operate at night, it's difficult to see them. They wait until it's dark for them to then go around, take down Rise Mzansi posters. But ourselves will continue to take our message to the people, if they take down our posters, if the only resource that we are left with is ourselves, we are going to take ourselves to the people to ask them to vote for new leaders, because the leaders that we have, the current establishment, is threatened by new entrants like ourselves as Rise Mzansi. We've been quite clear that we need new leaders. Whether they take down our posters or not, there will be new leaders in Parliament. That I can guarantee, Tony.
How big an impact, before I close this conversation, and I'm going to go through all of you with the same question, so very briefly in your responses, please. How big an impact would it be if your party does not have an election poster? Do you think that that would have a significant impact on the results, or you think really it'll be minuscule? Is visibility that important? Let's start with you, Ms. Denner.
Look, elections aren't won through posters, but it's very important to place yourself central in the mind of the electorate out there. So people have to know that you are there, you are representing your constituency, and you are taking part in the election. So that's why we do posters. But elections aren't won on poster level. And we have, quite frankly, this entire situation is quite ridiculous because we have more important things to do. We have more important things to worry about. We have to worry about the future of our country. We have to work to improve the future of our country for ourselves and for our children and those who come after us. So we're not supposed to be involved in poster wars. And I'd like to say that people who vandalize posters, whether political parties are involved or not, general public or whatever, please think before you do that. Because in the first place, it's an expense for the political party. We have to budget as well. So it's an expense for us. As I said, it's a criminal offense, which carries a sentence of not less than 5 years or a fine. And it's childish. It's actually a silly thing to do because we have more important things. We are not on the polls for fun and games. We're here to represent the people of South Africa. We have more important things to do. So please leave our posters alone. Allow us to market to the electorate and allow us to take part in this democratic election, as the voters have the right to take part in the democratic election. If you're mad at a party or if you don't agree with a party, don't vote for that party. Vote for another party, but leave the posters alone.
Mr. Ndlela, briefly, your comments if you did not have a poster at all.
Look, Mkhonto is a huge party. You know, we're a party of the people. The people know us. We don't necessarily depend or rely on posters in this case to win an election. But however, it is important that, you know, we have our posters up and in the conscience of the voter. Because, you know, it's also important that the voter at a provincial level knows that Mkhonto is represented in that province, and then, you know, that they vote accordingly. We're not going to engage in petty politics. However, we do take it seriously. And we're saying that, you know, we're focusing on changing our people's lives. And as the comment that was made, yes, it's a fact. You know, the leadership in Parliament is going to change, and Mkhonto is going to be definitely playing a huge role in the change of this country.
Mr. Gana, you get to have the last word, but you sort of had given a comment around this that, you know, yours is to go to people directly. You may not necessarily rely on posters. So my question to you, therefore, is how big a budget do posters cost in order for them to be up on these lampposts?
It's a huge cost, Goli, and the other cost is that our posters are put up by volunteers and organizers on the ground, and so when someone removes those posters, you know, like it's double the blow, because one, it's the money that we have taken to put up the poster, but also the organizers and volunteers in the villages, in the townships, in the informal settlements that have now identified with Rise Mzansi, that wake up every morning to put up those posters. But they have said to us that even when they take down our posters, we will continue to do the work, because South Africa deserves new leaders that are going to build a safe, prosperous, equal and united South Africa in one generation. And that's what we are all working towards. So all these people who are taking down our posters, you won't dampen our spirit. We are very much committed to this. There will be new leaders in Parliament.
All right. To all my guests, thank you very much for your time. If I start with Mr. Gana from Rise Mzansi, Mr. Ndlela from the MK Party, and Ms. Denner from the Freedom Front Plus. Thank you all for your time. And just as a quick mention, given that they were mentioned in the not so positive light, the ANC, if indeed you would like to respond to this, it is an open platform. And so the invitation goes to the Democratic Alliance as well.